Hello there YouTube, and welcome to this video of FearGFX. In this video I'm going to make a tutorial in which I show how to make bases like this base here. Let's go into focus. Yeah, it won't really focus, but you get the idea. So it's a nice high scenic base, or display base actually. And what you'll need for that is, what I like to use is cork. This is a nice cork mat, thick mat, which if you tear it up, I don't know if you can see that, but has a really nice rocky texture. Of course you need the base to build it on, and you'll need some tools, in which case you might need a knife. And I like to use this tool over here, which is kind of a dental tool, which is really easy to dig away in the cork. You might need some cutters and some wire if you need to pin your base or for details. And there's lots of extra stuff that you can use. You can use bits from your bits box, or maybe some resin stuff, some sand, just to make it more alive. So what I'm going to do is you need to start off by just tearing off something, nice piece of your cork, and I'll show it. This is slightly bigger than the size of the base. That's okay, and you can see it has a lovely organic texture to it, really nice and rocky. But you want some height, so we'll tear off an extra piece. That might be a little bit messy, so if you don't want to get in trouble with the missus, clean up your workspace. So this looks pretty nice, and of course you need to keep in mind for what kind of miniature you're making it. I'm going to make it for this guy, which is some dark Eldar. He is called Drazar. I'll put a link to this guy in the comments. He's Dark Eldar, and he is like really moving forward, and I want to capture that in the base, so I want to make the base slightly tilted maybe to give him that idea of speed. So for that I need a really high base. So I'm gonna just tear off another piece, and it's pretty much gonna be, I think it's going to be this high, so 3 layers in my case. In the case of this base, I did 2 layers, and I just added some random stuff at it. But for this miniature, I think I'm going to do 3 layers high, because it's a pretty big miniature. And I'm going to cut this one down. I'm going to make the slope of which he's running down, so give him the idea of speed, of motion, sense of motion. You can really kind of decide how you want your base to be built up. And of course, I'm making this rocky, but you can make cork look like concrete or whatever, depending on how you paint it and what you add. I've seen bi-paint it, add some wire to the cork, make it look like rebar, which looks pretty convincing. He adds some other random stuff to give it that urban look to it. I think the logos should be a little bit smaller, so you can just break off anything you don't want with your fingers at this point. It's not that hard, because I want to give a little bit of dynamic. That like the top one may be the biggest, so I need a bigger piece for that. Maybe like this, a little bit too big, but as you can see, I'm really just tearing up the cork, making it kind of fit, and I think that's something I can live with. So clean up the cork, and you can save the cork. I mean, that's always useful for making other terrain pieces or bases. I wouldn't suggest making this for regular these kind of bases for regular models. Just use your super glue. And the super glue doesn't glue it instantly. I don't know why that is. You can also use PVA glue, by the way, but that takes even longer to dry. It doesn't set instantly, but it does give a really nice solid bond, which I really like. So done with the cork for now. Like in this case, it isn't really necessary to pin it because it's nice and solid. As you can see, it's pretty solid. But with the other base I did, this one, as you can see, I kind of cut away the bottom half, so that was slightly more unstable, so I pinned that to the base to create a more stable surface, make sure that it wouldn't break. So let's see if it's dry yet. It's kind of getting there. Now it's time for your tools. So your knife, or in my case my dental tool, and really carve away at the edges of the cork, because I don't know if you can see it over here. I'm looking at the screen if I can see it. I hold it like this. You can see the flat surface over here. That doesn't look natural. And you can see it as well over here, that edge. And you need to get rid of those edges. I mean, I want to get rid of those edges to give it a nice natural look. And what I do is I just use my tools and really go at it at those places to get rid of that edge. And what it'll do is it kind of blends in the layers of cork to a point where you won't recognize the separate layers of the mat. And that's pretty much what you want. To get a nice solid look to your rock or concrete. These bases can be used for display pieces, of course. I wouldn't recommend doing it for models that you play with, because it's pretty much just too large. Like if your model, the base is about the size of the model itself, your models won't fit into cover anymore or whatever. So this is really just for display or contest pieces. If you want to paint a model for a contest, I recommend doing a base like this, because it makes it stand out more, and it might increase your chances to win. So try to make it look natural. Places where you glued it, you might notice that it's extra hard. That's because it's super glue. It doesn't really matter. I'm just using my tools to carve my way into the cork. And get that nice, natural, rocky look. So, the excess cork inside again. Right, as you can see, or might see, I got rid of all the edges on the cork and made it look really nice and natural. You can see some gaps in between the layers. That doesn't really matter, like over here. Doesn't really matter because we're gonna go over it with some liquid green stuff at the end, and that'll really tie it together as a solid rock. I'm gonna carve my way down on one side to make it like a slope. So I need to get one side a little bit lower than the other side. And you can do that by tearing off the flat pieces of cork on one side and adding just a little bit of cork on the other side. And remember to keep a little flat space in the center to place your miniature on. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. Unless you're really good at pinning your models. But if I wouldn't, I'd be in trouble. So, and you can use whatever you tear off to glue that on the other side, like that, to increase the height over here. No, crap. Don't glue your stuff to the table, because don't glue your fingers together. That would be really messy. Try explaining that to your girlfriend. That won't work. Like, honey, I just glued myself together again. She's like, oh my god, no. And she'll probably convince you to get a different hobby that's less dangerous. Because, yeah, we all know that most girlfriends are like that. There you go. So, all the excess cork to the side again. And this is the result. As you can see, it's a nice height here. A slight slope downwards. And we're going to put him like kind of over there, sprinting down. Right. And so this is the building phase. And I'm gonna let the glue set for a moment, and I'll be right back with the next step, which is decoration. So I'm back, and I'm gonna continue with my base. What I did is I changed it a little bit. I made it a little bit edgier at some points, like here at the front. I made it a little bit spikier. And I slimmed down the base a little bit to make it look more interesting. And I prepared my resin skulls, and I pinned the metal miniature because it's a little bit more heavy. The reason why I didn't glue it to the base yet is because I want full mobility and full access to all the little spots. And I'm going to pin it to the base as well to counter the weight of the metal miniature again, because it's going to be very top heavy. So I have some resin skulls here, but you can use any bits you like for decoration. I have these two toothpicks, which are going to be spikes because he's a Dark Eldar and kind of chaos, so spikes. And I have my basing materials from Guild Force 9, some fine sand and some small rocks or very coarse sand, but something like that. So what I'm going to do is, and I also marked with a marker pen, mark the location of the hole where the miniature is going to go, like that. So what we're going to do now is decorate the base, because you want it to look interesting, because the base will pretty much, and like if it's a contest piece, the base is what's going to pull the attention to the miniature, draw the eye to judges or other people that are watching it, or if you're having a display base, it's just cool to have a cool looking display base. So I'm going to add some of those skulls to it, and I'm going to add some of those toothpicks to it. and you don't need the full length of the toothpick, so I'm probably just gonna snap it like that. And I'm gonna use my pin vise and drill a little hole into the cork. And I'm gonna try and get that in there. And once you've dry fitted it, I mean, I'm not going to glue them all together. Let's see if I can get it into the base. Yeah, I'm not going to glue them all together yet, because I want to see how it looks when it's done, so I can take them out, shorten them, leave them out, or whatever. So I'm going to just add a couple of random spikes here and there. Make sure they're not obstructing the movement line of your miniature. Like this guy is going to sit right here, so no spikes in the front where he's going to drill. Let's get it there. There we go. No spikes in the front, so no reason why he wouldn't be walking there. Make it logical. So probably mainly on the side, maybe some of the back, and from the base out, maybe something like that. So I'm going to start doing that, and I'll see you when I'm done with the spikes. Alright, so I'm done adding the spikes. As you can see, I've added them at random around the base, and I've also added one at the base of where it will be coming from, to have like a spike stick out from the basing material, so it will look cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and dig out some small indents, maybe small holes, shallow holes for some of the skulls to go into, to have some of the skulls pop out of the stone, like I did on the other base that I showed you. Like, focus. You won't focus. Come on. Let's get it to the center of the screen. Maybe it'll focus. Alright, it's not going to focus. One sec. There we go, like that. Like the skull over there. That's coming. That's inside the rock. So for that, you need to dig a little hole. I'll use this dental carving tool for it, but you can use a pin vise or a knife, anything at all. And just try to get approximate chunk out, approximately the size, a little bit bigger than the skull is. You can go nice and deep with it, by the way, because you're going to glue it in with super glue. Don't make your hole too big, because that just looks weird. You have to fill it up with I don't know, with green stuff, or it just doesn't look that good. So what I did here was I made this hole. I don't know if you can see that. No, because it isn't focusing again. My hand in front. Focus. There he goes. I made this hole here, and I'm gonna dry fit the resin skull that I have inside there. I'm gonna have some skulls at the base as well, so not all my skulls will go in there. And it fits perfectly. So as you can see, that's where I'm gonna glue my skull in. So I'm gonna make a couple of more holes, I think 2 or 3, and then I'm gonna glue everything into place, and I'll see you when it's done. Alright, so I'm back, and this is pretty much what it looks like when it's done, or when this face is done. So you can see the spikes. I glued them all in with super glue. Remember, when you're doing the spikes, take them out one by one and glue them back in, because if you take them all out, you might lose the locations of the spikes. You can also see some of the skulls added into the rock. Let's see, turn it there, and one in front over there, right in the center. But you can also use other stuff. I mean, you can use helmets from enemy races or from your favorite enemy player. Whatever random bits. So now we've gone to the part where we need to pin the base to the round base. Pin the cork to the base. For stability, you will need your pin vise, of course, and some wire. And I'm just going to drill right here in the middle of the flat area, which will be around there, I guess, on the base. And I know this is kind of vague because it's not really a detailed tutorial on how to do it, because there is no real way how to do this, but it's more to give you guys an impression how I made my bases, how I make my bases. And you can see that when I'm drilling into the cork, I go up and down a couple of times, like this. Drill it out, drill it back in, and keep just spinning in the same direction to get all that cork out of there, because they'll obstruct the there you go, the wire that goes in. So fits nice and easy. Got some super glue again. Add a little bit of super glue to the wire. I'm losing a lot now, but just a little bit of glue because there we go. And cut off, where's my clipper? There it is. About a centimeter or half an inch under the base. So going back to my base, I kind of drew a line where it's supposed to go. So my hole is supposed to go there for the. Oh. There you go. So that's pretty easy. Now I'm just gonna fold over the pin on the inside. Check if it's nice and flush everywhere. Appears to be good. So I'm gonna add a drop of super glue to the inside, and you can also see that I did the same with the spike from the base. Just add some super glue there. Let it dry. I'll be back in a sec. Right, for the next step, we're going to need some liquid green stuff, or some equivalent to that. And what we're going to do is we're going to give that rocky texture some more solid. I don't know what the word is, but make it more like a solid rock. We're going to do that by adding some liquid green stuff, dabbing it on there. You'll need a really cheap brush. I got this one for 70 cents or something. I use it for sometimes dry brushing on my bases, but generally stuff that really destroys your brush. And I recommend thinning down your liquid green stuff, so it'll be nice. It'll get absorbed by the cork really nice. So you're gonna need not a whole lot, but quite a lot of green stuff in your brush here. And I suggest, get that out of the way, dabbing it on, covering all the cork, and get into those nooks and crannies to get a nice and solid look. Really just dabbing motion, because with a brush like this, that will allow you to get into those little holes and stuff. Just go to town. So it doesn't really matter if you hit some of the skulls, because liquid green stuff is water soluble, so you can clean it up afterwards. Also doesn't matter if you hit some of the spikes or other detail that you hit, because I don't know, it might just make it look more solid, like it belongs there. So it's pretty good, pretty easy to do. I'm gonna finish this up off camera, and I'll see you in a minute. So as you can see, I covered the entire base in liquid green stuff, except for the skulls. I cleaned those back up. It's kind of out of focus, I'm sorry. And it won't focus, so focus. It's trying to focus. It's struggling. No, you get the idea. So cover the entire base in liquid green stuff. Quick tip for people that don't have access to liquid green stuff or just don't have it at the moment. You can also use white glue and water that down a little bit, but it won't have the exact same effect, but it's pretty close. And now we're just gonna let this dry. So I'll see you guys when that's done. So there I am again, and seems like the green stuff has cured. So it's really nice and rough, durable, and once you'll start dry brushing it, you don't have to worry about flicking off any of the or damaging the cork or whatsoever. So it's nice and strong. So the thing that we need to do before painting it is adding the final decoration, and in this case will be my Gale Force 9 basic materials, the fine sand and the not so fine sand, or very fine rocks, depending on how you want to call it. So you will need some white glue for this. I'm using some German brand that's pretty cheap. You can also use GW or whatever you can get. Wood glue. I think wood glue doesn't really have water in it. But this one's almost up, so I'll just finish this one first. There we go. And again, with the old brush I showed you guys earlier, just get some of that white glue on there and apply it to your base. You can apply it pretty liberal, so get a nice layer of wood, PVA glue on there to really have those basic materials attached to your base and don't fall off again, because I've seen a lot of basing where people added flock or sand or whatever, and it was just obvious that they did not add enough glue to the base, so it was enough for the sand to stick to it, but that's about it. It doesn't really tie in, blend in well with the base. So as you can see here, nice layer of white glue. Let's get these base materials open, and this is pretty much I think it's grind up walnut shell, and it's pretty good for what I'm using it. And I do the bigger chunks first. That's always the way how I base my materials. I use the big chunks and then go to finer, then move on to the finest I have, depending on what size I start with, of course, but always move from coarse to fine, because fine sand will always go in between the gaps. It will always find that bit of glue that wasn't attached to. Get that off the table. Yeah. Right, they'll get my girlfriend mad, but I'll deal with that later. And for this, it might be easier just to take it off the glue tag that I attached it on first bit, and just give it a good whirl in the sand like that. And you really want to get your covered nice, get it in all those little nooks and crannies, all the little bits of glue that we're still showing. And once you're sure that there is no glue visible anymore, just press it on a little bit. Go over the sides with your finger to clean those edges up, because you don't want anything hanging over those edges, because that just doesn't look good. There you go. So, yeah, well, focus of course, but oh, there we go. See, and they'll look pretty well once it dries. And there is one more thing you need to do, but you will have to wait, and I won't be showing that in this video. But one more thing that you have to do, I'll get this out of the way, by the way, it looks hideous. And that is, when the PVA glue has cured, you need to mix the PVA glue with some water and go over it to ensure that it won't come off again. So what I do is I have this little spray here, and this is pretty much water mixed with PVA glue, and I'll just give it a few sprays of that, and that works pretty well. But if you're just doing a single piece like this or this, the spray works fine. If you need some larger surface, spray is also really easy to use. So yeah, I recommend doing that before you start painting, because once you get to the dry brushing stage, sand will come off if you happen to glue it in with an extra layer. So that pretty much concludes my walkthrough, because it's not really a tutorial, my walkthrough of how I painted, how I built my bases. I'm sorry, I haven't painted it. How I built these bases. How it gives you an idea what you can do, how you can do it. And if you liked this video, if you think it was helpful, please give that, let's see which side it is, I think that side, yeah. Give that like button there some love, share it with your friends, and it'll let me know that I'm doing the right thing here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which I hope will be of better quality. So see you next one.